So in this section, I wanted to talk about some of the omni-channel payment integration challenges that we see with our customers. And in order to do that, I just want to provide a bit of context at a fairly high level in terms of how payment integration works and what is the logical flow. The integration pattern for card payment integration hasn't really changed a lot over the years. What there has been is an evolution. But when it comes to payment integration, other than the card holder, the consumer, and the retailer, the merchant, typically you'll find that there is a payment gateway that will handle the processing of the payment request. There is an actual payment processor which will interface with the credit card payment system. And that credit card payment system is integrating with the issuing bank, which is the bank that issues the credit card to your consumer. And then that bank is finalizing payment to what is the acquiring bank, which is the bank from the retailer, the merchant bank. So this flow hasn't really changed too much, and it's pretty consistent across different payment solutions. What there's been is an evolution in terms of PCI, and that is brought a reduction in scope in terms of making sure that the least amount of systems will have exposure to person identifiable information. There's been an introduction of tokens, which have been incredibly helpful in terms of not requiring you to reintroduce credit card information into a modification or a subsequent change to a previous pre-auth. And then there's been an improvement in encryption throughout this flow. But the reason of showing this is because ultimately these solutions that haven't really fundamentally changed for quite a while, they were specialized by channel. And they were specialized by channel under a couple of criteria or parameters. One was whether customer was present or not present, whether the customer will physically present the credit card to the device or not, and then whether the transaction was staff-assisted or was self-service. And essentially, with those two parameters, you have kind of your channels defined, and in many cases, different payment solutions for each channel based on those two parameters. So a customer present that is staff-assisted is your store channel. A customer present where is self-service typically will be a kiosk type of solution. Customer not present with a staff-assisted will be typically a call center. And self-service with customer not present will typically be e-commerce. So with a specialized payment solution, even at the highest level where I was showing a simplified model for integration, you end up having much more complexity. You can potentially have multiple payment gateways and multiple payment processors available for a consumer, depending on what channel they choose to purchase from the merchant. And this is something that is completely hidden from the consumer. So the cardholder will understand that they have a single card and they're using that card. But then that card will be processed differently from an integration perspective, depending on what is the point of the transaction, depending on what is the channel chosen. And that can bring quite a lot of limitations when then you are trying to execute omnichannel. So those limitations, tokenization, which I mentioned before, that is such a blessing in terms of the capabilities that it brings, it can actually also be a barrier for omnichannel, because if your payment gateway is not the same across channels, the tokens will essentially not be operable across the channels either. And so one of the key benefits of tokenization gets lost. And then, as we were mentioning before, there's more and more customer journeys. There's really a blur when it comes to channels, more channels available, and particularly with the mobile experience, where you can essentially, in a single device, you can essentially cover all of these 4 quadrants, because you can bring your mobile device as a bring your own device to the store. You can buy remotely. You can use it as part of a staff-assisted experience, or you can use it as self-service. The whole idea of having a specialized payment integration solution doesn't make much sense anymore. So the easy answer for the challenge is clearly to consolidate your payment gateway and payment processor into one. And that might be something that is not that easy to do. And that also might be something that does not necessarily provide you with all of the functionality, because the interaction with and the handling of the process for payment is happening outside of the merchant infrastructure.